Hello, everybody. My name is Luigi Demeo. I lead our DeFi and DevRel efforts here at Avalanche. We have a great panel here for you today. I'd like to just pass the mic around, let everybody introduce themselves, and then we can get into, really one of the biggest challenges out there, which is UX problems in Web3 and building in Web3. So, Jaack, you want to kick us off?
Yes. Can you make a question to me so that I can answer properly?
Sure. Madai. Listen, I'd like for everybody just to introduce themselves, your background, where you come from, which entity, and why you're building on Avalanche.
Yes. So I'm Jaack. I'm from Avascan. Avascan is the leading block explorer for Avalanche, and it's also the world's first unified block explorer. You may know us as we are transitioning the Etherscan Snowtrace block explorer from Etherscan to a new Snowtrace multi-chain explorer by November 30.
Hi guys, I'm Erwin. Luigi took my notes, so I'm gonna have to wing it. I'm Erwin from Chorus One. I'm the EVM lead, engineering lead. We Chorus One is a provider of validation as a service, like also for public validators. And we are here to help build on the Avalanche ecosystem. I'm origin from Brazil, but I live in Holland, and I'm a cryptographer by training, but I left academia and became a consultant, and now I finally got my way to crypto, which I'm very happy, and I'm really working my dream.
Hi everyone, my name is Daria, and I am a developer relations engineer at Subsquid, and we're building an indexing SDK, and also we're working on building a network that will provide historical blockchain data for free and will help bring down the costs of Web3 development. And originally I was a blockchain developer, but now I am working as a developer relations engineer.
Hi, I'm Susannah. I'm from Interchain. I'm the product lead for the inter-blockchain communication protocol work that happens at Interchain. So this is the interoperability protocol used by Cosmos blockchains and more recently Polkadot. And there's a team called Landslide who are working on bringing that to Avalanche with a subnet. And the Interchain Foundation just funds all of the open source public goods infrastructure that's used in the Cosmos ecosystem. And I came to crypto maybe through a weird path. Originally did engineering, specialized in manufacturing, then did a PhD in biomanufacturing, realized biotech's very slow and incremental to innovate on, and I had developed an interest in crypto and wanted to be part of the fast-paced industry that it is.
Awesome. Yeah, we have a great panel here. One of the things that I think is a little bit of a headwind for the industry is how we actually engage Web3 developers. There's obviously some nuance to building in Web3 as opposed to Web 2. And one of the things I think we learned from the last few cycles is that to get up to speed isn't as easy as many think. So one of the things I want to start with is what are some of the challenges or the most obvious challenges that you guys see across your respective roles as it relates to somebody coming from Web3, from Web 2 to actually building in Web 3? What are some of the nuances that they really need to become accustomed to? We can start with you, Erwin.
Cool. So nuances. I think the one thing that comes to my mind a lot, especially in the Avalanche ecosystem, is that we started with the C chain, which is a smart contract as a chain, as you all know. And the type of Web3 developer that develops for a smart contract chain like that, it's not the same as the Web3 developers, for example, that launches a Cosmos network. Right? You have to think about infrastructure. So one of the things that I hear a lot when we at Chorus, we have also this investment arm. So I work there as well and try to do due diligence and such. So I talk to a lot of projects. And one thing that I notice is that there is this gap that we are going to start having to bridge when subnets come along, and they are already coming. So we have to start kind of attracting and educating the Web3 developers that are smart contract developers to become also like a bit more chain as an infrastructure project developers, and needs a little bit of different skills.
Yeah, I mean, you know, even if you think about it deeper, right, something like IBC, right, this is not really a notion, I think, that people are accustomed to, you know, needing to even, you know, traverse different databases, blockchains, things like that. How do you guys think about, you know, getting people educated on the nuances of like cross-chain interactions, you know, who aren't really accustomed to Web3?
Yeah, so I think it's really challenging because, as you said, now not only are you kind of working in one domain, you're working across multiple domains, and yeah, it just makes it much harder. There's lots of little things and nuances that you have to pay special attention to, and it's just really hard to actually learn all those things. Additionally, now you're working between multiple domains, like testing anything you build is actually a lot more difficult as well. So everything takes a lot more time. There's way more things to be thinking about. Yeah, I mean, we try and do things to improve the developer experience. We have like a developer academy to try and educate developers on, you know, the protocol understanding, try and give lots of resources on how they can effectively test. Have support forums, Discord is often used. But yeah, ultimately it's just, I think it's a steep learning curve if someone does want to transition from kind of Web 2 to Web 3. And they're going to have to put in a bit more work ultimately. I don't think you can get away from that.
Yeah, I mean, Jaack, I believe you worked in, previous to Web3, I believe you also had interactions as a developer in Web 2. Can you give a little bit of insight into sort of what that transition was like? And also, as somebody whose sort of main objective is to build something like a block explorer, something that doesn't exist in Web 2, you know, how you think about the challenges and also the excitement of that.
So a bit of parenthesis there, Block Explorer is really like non-existent to Web 2 developers. So they don't want to pay, they don't know what it is, they don't know how to use it. But the thing is, I think one main issue with the transition from Web 2 to Web 3 is commoditization. So right now it is easy, like from 2017 was very, very easy to launch a new token. So everyone will want to do it. Even Web3, Web2 developers, they didn't have any experience in that. I have some friends who launched a startup in Web3, but they were a Web2 company. That didn't go well. But the thing is, when you have something that seems so easy, and right now launching a new blockchain is so easy. You can spin up a new blockchain in 35 seconds with 5 validators or something on testnet. You feel like it's always, everything's like a joke or a game, so you can just, start with it and then learn through it. The thing is that you will, come through a lot of problems, and that's what we realized when supporting, developers with a Block Explorer, and that is like users, developers that were like, okay, yes, we have, recently, I have a use case. Recently, there's a company, a really, really big company that reached to us. It was actually near Malaysia, so maybe some issues there. And they actually reached out to us because they are building a Web3 solution. I don't even understand what that Web3 solution was, like some supply chain thing. And they wanted a Block Explorer. And they wanted, to not just understand the price and so on. And then we were very straightforward. We were just like, and this is something that we say to every chain that we encounter. Like, we just need an archive RPC with debug trace active. Do you know how many developers we actually filter for, archive RPC, like 90% understand what an archive RPC is, but then just like 25% understand what debug trace means. And so they cannot, we just need to walk them through to understand the difference between one is a debug trace mode and one is not. And so I think this is so maybe yes, you're right. We need a lot of, academy, a lot of education around this, but I just don't think that's the ultimate, because we need to like one-on-one. The one-on-one is the best solution that I have, because you have the complete concentration of the person you're talking to. Because otherwise, if you just seen a video, yes, you have some education, but you just want to learn it through time. And if you have, we really strive and take a lot of time to just talk one-on-one with each developer and say, yes, debug trace is like this. You have Liu here that is doing reach out, and is talking to all the subnets and all the chains, and really like just try and educate about this single one thing that we care about, and also about all the other things, about the value added of a unified block explorer and so on. But yeah.
No, I mean that's helpful. Starting with things that don't scale is usually the way you really need to kind of get the ball rolling, right? Kind of alluding to what Jaack was saying, Daria. I know like you're working on a lot of different indexing services. How do you also think about bridging the gap for those who aren't familiar with the notion of the indexing on a blockchain, on a public blockchain?
So to help Web2 developers transition, we actually provide a lot of out-of-the-box tools that look very familiar to people who haven't worked in Web3 before, while also keeping the flexibility. So they have a choice. So when you just get into blockchain indexing, you don't really need to interact with the blockchain directly. Because you can set up your indexing SDK to have like a database, and it all looks very familiar because you have your GraphQL endpoint and you don't have to do anything to set it up. And later, when you feel more comfortable, you can customize your service as you see fit. So I think it's really helpful, because when you just get into it, you don't look baffled by what you have to do, because you basically just interact with the data, and yeah.
Yeah, you would think that like the sort of standardization of something like, let's say, the EVM or interacting with the blockchain should allow us to have network effects in growing adoption for developers. This is much different than something like Web2. You don't have a unified sort of database that everybody can plug into. I guess going back to you, Erwin, as you think about, you guys are very focused on staking and validator nodes. What do you think are the major challenges for people to be able to sort of set these up and be able to monitor them and not get themselves in trouble? Like, for example, in a proof of stake system, you can easily sort of like not receive your reward or be slashed. How are you guys thinking about sort of the challenges that those present?
Like from the perspective of a project that needs to launch, or
from the perspective of a validator and getting people accustomed to running the validator nodes.
Yeah, well, I mean, different chains are different, of course. Like I do like, for example, in the Avalanche ecosystem, that you don't have slashing. I mean, that's a big one.
That's what we all like.
Yeah, like this is for the like ease of entry. This is a kind of a really big one. But yeah, like you have to really be there if you are in a network that has slashing. So you have to kind of figure out what this binary is doing. You have to understand like what logs. Perhaps even you want to have monitoring yourself, and that's what we do. But then at scale, right? But there is no kind of extra kind of a skill that you need other than being familiar with terminal and like running the binary, have kind of a Prometheus setup or something like that. So these are all things that Web2 developers are aware of, know how to do, launch a Dockerized container. So that's no difference. The thing is, where do you go to learn, right? And that's where I think like there's plenty of stuff that needs to be done, because like a Web2 developer can essentially by itself go to GitHub and get a whole enterprise launched. And we are not there yet. Okay.
No, unfortunately not, but I think we've made a lot of progress. Like it's 2023, 3 years ago, I think the amount of people who were able to understand RPCs, be able to index anything was, very small. Jaack, as you think about sort of engaging and getting people excited, we've obviously seen this cycle of, price go up, developers come in, price go down, developers go out. How do we sort of engage people for the long term to kind of get them to stay? I know myself, as we think about the developer relations team at Avalanche, we're focused on people who are trying to build sustainable products. I'd be curious to hear from you, in whether it's been through hiring efforts or engaging other people. What have you seen has been the best way to sort of engage people into Web3 development?
So I just keep saying to people that I love the bear market. The thing is, I love it because I don't see it as a bear market, but as a build market. It's a way to, who remembers Wonderland? Okay, so very few people know about the stress that we've all been through in November 2021. And we couldn't get anything done. I was on Twitter all day. There were so many things to follow. You just couldn't focus on one thing for an hour or so. And this is bad for the business. Maybe this is bad for a starting business. Maybe it's good for a business that it's already mature and can just work in standalone. But for a business that is starting up like Avascan that was really, really bad because we had a lot of inputs and we could just not focus on a single one and for more than 5 minutes. And so in the past 2 years, we did a lot of things. We iterated 3 times on our indexer. Now I think it's one of the cheapest in the industry, and it's one that scales enough. We index about 60 blockchains across mainnet and testnet, and we have no issue whatsoever. And we also managed to build a new front end for EVM-focused blockchains, and that's what you're going to see from September 27 as your default block explorer for Avalanche. And we had also a way to just understand our value proposition. This is something that in a bull market you just don't see. Don't see anything. You don't see anything in a bull market. You just see people talking about any kind of pump and dump or whatever. I do it as well. But the thing is, that is not what we're here for. Satoshi Nakamoto wasn't here. Vitalik wasn't here for making more money. He was here and this is another anecdote that I use all the time. Until when I was 13 years old, I didn't know how contracts were applied, were enforced. I'm like, is there some people that some person that magically enforces contracts? And then when I realized that there's actually just a random person that just can enforce maybe a justice of peace or something like that. I'm like, so you can contest things, you can actually go through all this. And it was really, really bad for me. I was living in heaven, but then I was just gone down to earth. And so when I came to realize about smart contracts first, in 2017, when I heard about smart contracts and DAOs, and I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. And so I was really happy. And this is what we should be happy. You're not gonna chase the price. Maybe we're getting millionaires in the runway, but it's not the first reason.
Yeah, I mean, just because of for the sake of time, I want to pose a question for the entire panel. One of the things that I think we've sort of alluded to in this panel, but is going to be a challenge going forward, is how to get, there's 2 types of personas I've typically engaged as it relates to developers. There is the Web2 convert, and then there's the person who just starts in Web3, and they usually come from universities. They usually just don't have that mental block or notion that they have to relearn something. I guess my question for the panel here, and I'd love to hear everybody, sort of how you think about this is, what do you believe is going to be the greatest challenge for us to solve for in terms of engaging new developers in this space going forward? I know there are many, and they could be specific. It could be, we have this issue with RPCs or whatever. What specific thing? We could start this way and go down.
I think in general, just because Web3 is way more nascent than Web2, there's just less tooling and things like this which developers can use. There's less onboarding material. I know Jaack mentioned like you can't be a one-on-one dialogue with a developer to really explain things in detail, but it's like that also doesn't scale, right? Because so I think it's just everything is way less developed, and that just takes time, right? Like a developer's entry point is like they might find something on GitHub, they might look at the technical documentation, they may have a look and see, are there other people asking similar questions to me on the internet or on these forums? And if it's like, if one of those components doesn't really kind of meet the mark of feeling like, oh, okay, there's actually lots of people interested in a similar thing, or this documentation is really good, it can answer a lot of my questions for me, or there's like, no one there using this thing, then they're going to be turned off. And I think, to me, like, solving all of those challenges is going to then make it more attractive for people to stay. But it takes a lot of time. I think it's non-trivial.
Yeah, I think that's for sure. Daria?
I also agree with Jaack because as we've seen at Subsquid, when we had an influx of new developers, and it could be mid-level developers or like really qualified back-end developers that haven't worked in Web3 before, we had a problem when one-on-one is really the most efficient way to get them to achieve like the end point for their project. So I think learning is definitely one of the main points of struggle of how to engage and keep Web3 developers.
I think like long term, the main problem is that the use cases are really hard. I'm really looking forward for the situation where we stop building infra for infra, and that we really go and look for applications that have real use case, where kind of censorship resistance is really the reason for this to exist. And but you really quickly see that these use cases are really hard. You will have to work and kind of with incumbents that are there entrenched, or with lawmakers that have yet no idea exactly of what is going on. So we have the world will catch up, but it is very slow. And so we will have a long time where we are still even when the tech is already here, which I do believe that we can do already a lot, but to really see the light of day, these use cases will have to kind of win way more difficult fights than just the pure tech. And so we will have to look at developers, but we also will have to look at changing the mindsets of people that can make the decisions. And that is, I think, the biggest hurdle here.
For me, I think it's to make it really, really easy to spin up a block explorer from yourself. That is the issue that we have right now that we want to solve, and explain the debug trace mode in 20 different sentences, in concepts, so that I'm envisioning a future in which maybe in 3-5 years you could just be able to go through a wizard and just spin up your block, just you do with Ava Cloud. Just spin up your full index block explorer, because right now you could do that, but it's a light explorer, and that's what we aim for. Just completely personless, humanless process to spin up a new explorer.
Awesome. Well, that was really it for the time that we had today. One of the things I did want to shout out is something new from the Ava Labs team, which is academy.avax.network. This is built from the ground up. I believe there's 4 courses now live. You can learn about subnets, Avalanche fundamentals, customizing the EVM. There's a new teleporter course coming out soon, which will help people with cross-subnet interactions. This is a great way to get started, whether it's from the basic level on Avalanche or on the deeper level with something like subnet EVM precompiles. So I highly encourage you to check that resource out. It's new. But I also want to thank all of our panelists. I was an emergency substitute today for the panel, and I still think it went okay. So
Great.
look forward to enjoying you all today at Avalanche House. Thank you.
Thank you.